morning.
Morning.
My name is Patricia Brown Holmes, and I serve as the co-chair and commissioner on the Illinois Accountability Commission. On behalf of everyone here who forms a part of the commission, I want to welcome everyone who has joined us today. Whether you're a community member, a witness, an advocate, members of the press, and our colleagues in public service. Thank you all for being here and for taking part in this important public process. I would love to begin by acknowledging and thanking the Arturo Velasquez Institute for hosting us today, and Dean Alicia Rodriguez for opening the space to the community. This is a place of learning, dialogue, and civic engagement in the heart of Little Village. And therefore, it is fitting that our first public hearing begins right here. Before we start today's hearings, I want to share a few important notes to ensure that today's hearings are accessible, respectful, and safe for everyone. First, there will be real-time translation services provided through our partners at the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. Next, we ask that all participants respect each other, even if emotions run high. This is a place for truth-telling, not intimidation. There is a security presence that you will notice. They are here to support safety, not to interfere with free speech. Restrooms and exits are clearly marked. In case of an emergency or a need to leave the facilities, please do so orderly, and please look for the exit signs. Today's meetings will include video, testimony, and public comment. This may be very difficult for some of you to witness or hear. We encourage you to take care of yourself and step out if you need. So let me talk about how, briefly, the morning will unfold. First, we will begin with a short opening video. Then we will have remarks from our chair and my dear friend, Judge Ruben Castillo. We will then have presentations on the commission's mandate and work to date by Ahmad Bassett, our commission's lead legal counsel. Our meeting today will focus on federal agents' use of so-called less lethal chemical agents in Illinois communities. We will hear directly from witnesses who were exposed to chemical agents, as well as a medical expert who can speak to their effects. Finally, we will reserve time for public comment because the commission does exist to listen. And while we understand that not everyone will be able to comment today, there will be other opportunities. Today is just our first meeting. We are setting the foundation. We are creating a shared public record and elevating the voices of those most directly impacted. So thank you again for being here, and we will now begin with a short video.
Tensions are rising in Chicago as President Trump signals that he'll soon send troops and ICE agents to the city as part of his crackdown on crime and illegal immigration.
The Department of Homeland Security announcing Operation Midway Blitz on September 8th.
It's a war from within. I told Pete we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military.
She's a female! I got no heart, for real. No heart, no heart.
Everything they do has been exemplary.
We are focused on the worst of the worst.
This is what ICE does. This is what these terrorists do to babies.
Mama, you okay, Mama? You okay?
You alright?
It was scary because I've never had a gun put in my face. They asked my name and my date of birth and asked me did I have any warrants, and I told them no.
She says she was then handcuffed and released around 3 a.m.
He's a citizen! He's a citizen! I just want my baby back. He's not an immigrant. He was born and raised in Chicago.
This morning, I marked a junior student absent. It was because ICE had snatched him up on his way to school. While all of this unfolds in the world around this student, his main priority was getting that reading done for his English class.
And they pulled him under the truck, put him in a chokehold, and they started repeatedly punching him in the face. You can see in the video, he's struggling to breathe.
Have some of these raids gone too far?
No, I think they haven't gone far enough.
Do you have papers? My name is Andy Panagos, I'm a United States citizen. I work for
We're under siege. We're being invaded.
I was out there crying when I seen the little girl come around the corner. Because they was bringing the kids out too. Had them zip tied to each other. That's all I kept asking. Where's the morality? Where's the human?
Why is he choking him, bro? Why is he choking him, man? He ain't choking him. Hey, why he choking him, man?
I spoke to one woman who actually lives in this building, and she says she was detained by ICE agents overnight, and she says they took everyone and then asked questions later.
They just treated us like we were nothing.
Get back, I'm gonna shoot you. You're gonna what? You're gonna hit me?
I believe that all uses of force that I've seen and all arrests that I've seen have been more than exemplary.
Get back! Get back!
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank our colleagues, my fellow commissioners. My name is Ruben Castillo, and I have the honor of serving as the chair of the Illinois Accountability Commission. I was thinking as I was driving over here that it's not far from where I was born. I was born at Mount Sinai Hospital on Ogden in California. And it's been about 3 years since my father passed away. He immigrated here from Mexico. I'd just like to take a moment before we even go any further, just have a moment of silence to honor all the immigrants who have ever contributed to this great city and this great state. Let's just do that, please. Thank you. What you've just seen is hard to watch this, and we could put a video up there that goes hours in length about misbehavior. Mr. Bonvino says it's more than exemplary. I think our commission will show otherwise, and I think the video, as I've said, often speaks for itself, so as the photographs. I want to, first of all, commend the residents of this state and this city for putting up the battle that they have. I really want to advocate that everything that needs to be done peacefully, because if not, we will play into the hands of people that want this to become violent and perhaps bring the National Guard here. The images are shocking, impossible to look away from, but most importantly, it's going to be impossible to forget, and we will not forget. This is a historical period that we are going through, but the one thing that we cannot do is to accept this. This cannot be the new normal. And I think that certain people in Washington, D.C. want us to accept this as a new normal. And our commission will go about documenting every single thing that has happened and that unfortunately will happen. We know that this week the agents have returned. They've returned, and you've seen the pictures even last night on TV. They return with impunity. They're laughing, they're joking, they're playing games as they're conducting this behavior. I never thought we would see federal agents terrorizing everyday people in Chicago and across Illinois in the name of enforcing laws. I'm honored to serve on this commission with my fellow commissioners and especially my good friend and co-chair, Judge Holmes. She and I share a very similar history. It's a history of public service as prosecutors, and there's a lot of prosecutorial experience on our commission. There's a lot of law enforcement experience on our commission, and yet what we've seen being done dishonors those true members of law enforcement, and it dishonors them in such a profound way when you think that our children and our grandchildren are learning that federal agents can behave in this manner. I think back to a case that I prosecuted where a federal agent who was from Irish immigrant descendancy took away a pistol from someone who was dealing in narcotics. And I asked him later on, I said, why didn't you draw your own firearm? And he said, I thought I could safely pull that gun out of his hand and we could prosecute this person. And we did. But that is honor. That is true law enforcement, not what we're seeing here, where children, elderly, normal people are being put in harm's way, as we're going to hear today. So what you saw in the video, it was not spontaneous or isolated. It isn't something that's just occurring on the street because of frustration. This commission will focus on the chronology. And I've always said in my years of service as a judge and as a lawyer, the chronology is always important. How do things start? And if you look at the chronology of how things started here, it starts, we could go all the way back to a Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity. But where it really starts is with the president and the Secretary of Homeland Security saying things about Chicago and how Chicago would be targeted and how it was advertised as being warfare on Chicago. And then we see the behavior that follows. And we don't even have to put up these videos because we can use immigration's own propaganda videos to show what they're intending to do. So this is being done very intentionally, and agents are arriving here with a purpose, and the purpose is to inflict harm. And in the course of that, lies are being told. And I don't say that lightly. I say that because my former colleagues, and I want to say this on the record right here, I have not talked to anybody at the district court, but the district court in Chicago has already found different judges, not only Democrats but Republicans, have found that lies have been told to justify some of this behavior. That is part of the record in this case, and this commission will focus on that record. So the public was lied to, and we have to understand how this is going about. I once proudly served in federal law enforcement. That's a history that will stand. But this, and I'll repeat this over and over again, this underscores law enforcement, what has occurred since September and is now about to reoccur again in Chicago. This underscores law enforcement. Children will learn not to cooperate with law enforcement if this continues. And we will have more to say about that in the reports that will come. So we will go on with this hearing. We want to be as educational as we can. And I think today we're going to learn some important things about the harm that is being done. And we understand that today is only the start. And there's a misperception that this is the first meeting of this commission. Let me just say, we've had a lot of meetings. This is the first public hearing. And it took a lot to get to this point, and we intend to pursue every single fact, every single piece of misconduct. It won't necessarily be today, it might not be in the next hearing, and we know there are serious things to get to. 2 people have been shot. 1 was killed. 1 woman survived being shot repeatedly, and we saw how that case fell apart in federal court. So there's 3 things I just want to tell you about this commission. First, this is your commission. Our client is the people of the state of Illinois, and we will make sure that truth is told. Second, as I already elaborated on, the commission is hard at work. Staff is interviewing witnesses, collecting and reviewing video evidence, and we will make sure that we get to every single piece of misconduct. So any misconduct that occurs out there, we will get to one way or the other. We will not lose sight of it. And this is only the beginning. We have and will continue to present evidence to the public. If you have any ideas as to things you want us to pursue, do not hesitate to tell us, because we begin with a simple mission, is just to tell the truth as to what has occurred and to show what the repercussions have been. And the repercussions are long-term, and the lies that have been told about justification of this misconduct are plentiful. So there's a lot of work for this commission to do. But this commission is here to ensure accountability. And with that, I will turn it over to our Chief Counsel, Ahmed Bassett, who will walk us through the materials prepared for today. Mr. Bassett.
For watching virtually. So this all began because of Operation Midway Blitz. On September 8th, 2025, the Trump administration announced the launch of Operation Midway Blitz, purportedly to target the criminal illegal aliens who flocked to Chicago and Illinois. In the weeks that have followed, paramilitary forces have repeatedly used repressive and violent tactics on the people of Illinois. The threat they pose to our safety and freedom is ongoing. Now, the Illinois Accountability Commission was created by Governor J.B. Pritzker. He established it by Executive Order 2025-06 to address widespread abuses committed by federal agents throughout the Chicagoland area during Operation Midway Blitz, and the impact of those actions on Illinois residents. There are 8 commission members. The chair, who you just heard of, is the Honorable Ruben Castillo. You also heard from the co-chair, the Honorable Patricia Brown Holmes. Another commissioner is Jimmy Arce, Aurora Austriaco, Ricardo Estrada, Suzanne Gesh, Cindy Sam, and Linda Tortorellero are all also commission members. The commission staff is a small but mighty one. It's led by Hina Mahmoud, the executive director, whose tireless efforts are the reason why we actually were able to be here today. Also joined by Matthew Pierce, special counsel. You have myself as the lead commission counsel, and we're very lucky to have just added Anna Crane as our commission counsel. Now, what's our purpose? Well, first, it's to capture and create a public record of the abuses by federal law enforcement agents. We also want to determine how to safely and prudently collect testimony, hold hearings, and gather information. Our job as well is to capture and measure the impact on families and communities. We will also be recommending policy and legal actions to hold the federal government accountable and prevent future harm. Longer term, our objective is to pursue justice, including by referring as appropriate information or reports of potential violations of law to investigating agencies and entities. Now, what are our methods? How are we going to accomplish this? Well, we'll be undertaking investigations into federal law enforcement misconduct. We're creating a historical record through public hearings and events. We'll also be issuing an initial status report by no later than January 31st, 2026, that outlines findings and recommendations. We will also issue a final report by no later than April 30th, 2026. We are limited. The Commission does not have the authority to subpoena individuals or compel testimony. Participation is fully voluntary. The Commission also does not have the authority to prosecute individuals for misconduct. We are also not structured to provide legal advice or legal services to individuals who submit information to the committee. We are an advisory commission created to provide guidance and recommendations, not to make binding decisions. We do have a website, and it does have some additional resources that are available. To learn more about the Commission's work, please do visit ilac.illinois.gov. If you have been impacted by immigration raids, you can connect to resources through these websites. Illinois Information Hub, which you can reach at www.illinoisimmigrationinfo.org. You can also access a Know Your Rights toolkit at www.illinoisimmigrationinfo.org/know-your-rights. Now, what's upcoming? After today's hearing, we plan to open a portal to accept inquiries from the public. That should occur in some time in January. Now, in between January and the end of April 30th, we will be issuing an initial status report by January 31st. We will also hold multiple hearings that will occur during this first part of 2026. And by April 30th, we will issue a final report published with recommendations to the governor and the public. And with that, we will have Judge Patricia Holmes provide an update as far as what we'll be doing next.
So you've just heard about the purpose and scope of the Commission's work. So now we're going to turn to the first set of witnesses. The focus of this portion of today's hearing will be on chemical agents, or so-called less lethal weapons, which were used during federal enforcement operations in Illinois. These tools are often described in abstract terms such as flashbang devices, pepper bullets, tear gas, crowd control agents. But what matters to this commission is not just how the weapons are categorized on paper. What matters is how they are experienced by human beings, by families, by children, by people in their own homes and neighborhoods. The testimony that you're about to hear will include firsthand accounts, video documentation, medical, and human rights expertise. Together, these perspectives will help us understand not only what happened, but what it meant to them and what consequences continue to this day. As you listen, we ask you to hold one guiding question in mind. What does safety look like from the perspective of those who were on the receiving end of these actions? So we'll now play our second video where you will see the devastating impact of the excessive use of chemical agents on our community.
With pepper bullets, the residue that comes up makes it incredibly difficult to breathe. Was coughing profusely, had to rinse my mouth.
Day after day, tension-filled videos like these, taking over feeds across the country.
If someone strays into a pepper ball, then that's on them.
This is what these terrorists do to babies.
Mama, you okay, Mama? You okay?
All pedestrians will move outside the road now, or you will be arrested for impeding. Let's move them out.
Come here, babe. Come here, guys. Stay back, right? Come here. You're gonna need.
The judge called out U.S. Border Patrol Chief Greg Bovino. The judge shared Bovino admitted during a deposition to lying about getting hit by a rock before he threw 2 canisters of tear gas into the crowd.
Johnson, we're going to call it audible here. And we'll actually have our first witness testify as we sort out some of the technical issues that we're experiencing. That first witness that we are very lucky to have here speak before you all today in the commission is Matt DiMatteo. And with that, I will hand the mic over to Matt so that he can introduce himself and provide a bit of background about why he's here today.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome to my neighborhood of Little Village. I've lived here and served here for the last 25 years. All 3 of my kids were born at Mount Sinai Hospital and have loved this community. I'm a pastor with New Life Community Church. I'm also the CEO of New Life Centers of Chicagoland, a faith-driven nonprofit walking with youth and families across this city. For more than 20 years, New Life Centers has been deeply embedded in Chicago's neighborhoods. Our team mentors over 600 young people ages 12 to 24, supports 200 kindergarten to 8th grade students in after-school programs, and engages 2,500 youth through year-round sport. We respond to every shooting in Little Village, Pilsen, and Brighton Park, working daily to interrupt violence and build peace. Through community care, we feed 10,000 neighbors per month, supporting local entrepreneurs and welcoming families at our Illinois Welcoming Center. Over the last 2 years, through our New Vecinos initiative, we have placed 6,000 new arrival families into apartments. We have hosted 5,500 individuals in our family shelters. We have welcomed 5,000 people at the landing zone and distributed more than 1 million emergency supplies across the city. Our work is simple: faith in action. We walk life on life with our neighbors. We offer hope, healing, community, and opportunity. It has been the greatest joy of my life to serve alongside churches, partners, and government and civic leaders who care deeply for our communities. I live here with my wife, Sarah, and my 3 children, Isabella, Ben, and Robert. In my 25 years of serving in Chicago, 2025 has been the hardest year of the 25 years, and the last 4 months have been the hardest period of those 25 years. Operation Midway Blitz, which began on September 6th, has wreaked havoc across Chicagoland. More than 4,500 people have been taken this year, the majority in these last few months, and ICE operations have created chaos, ripping families apart and instilling deep fear across entire neighborhoods. This is not only an immigration issue. It is an economic issue, a spiritual issue, an educational issue, a medical issue affecting businesses, churches, schools, and clinics across our city. 26th Street has seen 60 to 80% drops in sales. Our church location has seen 50% drops in attendance, especially in our Spanish and Kekchi services. Our education system, Farragut High School, where my wife works, has seen drops in kids showing up during Operation Midway Blitz. And the narrative that ICE is removing dangerous criminals is simply not true. According to an NPR investigation, of the over 600 people set to be released, less than 3% of those arrested in Chicago had a criminal record. I can say this as a pastor and leader in the community. All of those who have been taken from our congregation, not a single one had a criminal record. In the last 90 days alone, I have personally witnessed ICE arrest U.S. citizens, my staff grab random neighbors off the street, people from our church, deploy tear gas on my team, arrest members and also U.S. citizens, causing accidents through high-speed car chases throughout the neighborhood, shooting neighbors, and even killing someone, spreading a level of fear that is traumatizing entire communities. I live here. I raise my family here, I worship and work here, and what I've seen is heartbreaking. Now I'm going to zoom in on what happened on November the 8th. On November the 8th, I started my day at my favorite restaurant, Nueva Leon at 26th and Lawndale. I was eating breakfast with a group of Leadership Greater Chicago colleagues talking about the work when I started to get text messages about ICE activity in the area. They had begun at 26th and Kedzie and were speeding erratically throughout the community. I got into the New Life van and began to check on our neighbors. At 11:09 a.m., I arrived at the intersection of 26th and Pulaski and witnessed about 10 ICE vehicles stopped in the middle of the street. Agents exiting with automatic rifles drawn, and so I began filming. 2 flashbangs detonated, and I saw Gregory Bovino holding a gas grenade with the pin pulled in front of me, ready to throw. Moments later, the caravan sped west down 26th Street. At 11:18 a.m., I turned into the Sam's Club parking lot and immediately saw a family in distress, clearly pepper sprayed or tear gassed, and I ran to them. It was a young couple, their 1-year-old daughter and 16-year-old sister. They could barely see. We helped flush their eyes, and we drove the father, who could not see well, in the New Life van, while his wife and daughter followed in their car behind. We brought them to the Lawndale Christian Health Center for treatment. Later, I received the video of what happened, and this family was simply shopping on a Saturday morning when ICE vehicles drove past and an agent pepper sprayed from the front of the car to the back, entering through an open window and hitting Raphael directly in the face with his 1-year-old daughter right behind him. They had done nothing wrong. They were not protesting, they were not chasing ICE vehicles, they were simply shopping. And although it should not matter, during this time, it needs to be said, I want to be clear, every person in that car was an American citizen. Should never have to say that. They were simply, again, shopping on a Saturday morning, had nothing to do with the Kedzie, Pulaski, any of the other open times that morning. And this is just one example. One family on one day. I could give you 30 examples that I've personally seen in front of me. Our teams have seen hundreds of cases involving excessive force, chemical agents, and unjustified aggression against our neighbors. And I'll end with this. Throughout all this, a glimmer of hope has been the beauty of Chicago coming together. In response to Operation Midway Blitz, we have partnered together with ICER, Metropolitan Family Services, the Resurrection Project, and dozens of other nonprofits in creating an ecosystem of care in our community. After Midway Blitz launched, New Life Centers created the Community Care Resource Hub, a 20,000 square foot community care center full of food to deliver at homes, emergency supplies, clothing, and essential goods for families living in fear. There's an incredibly heroic network of rapid responders across this city, volunteers and staff, who are the real heroes during this entire mission. Over the last few months, we feed 600 families every single week, delivering food to homes because people are scared to come outside. We distribute thousands of items to partners citywide and now have over 100 community agencies and churches who are part of this network. We will continue to care for our neighbors and to live out the call to seek justice, love mercy, and walk humbly. We will keep showing up because our city deserves peace, dignity, and accountability. Thank you.
Matt, thank you so much for that sobering and inspirational account. Matt also neglected to mention that just last week, the Chicago Bears announced that you are the 2025 Inspire Change Changemaker Award recipient for your leadership with New Life Centers of Chicagoland. So congratulations on your very well-deserved recognition. Now, part of your leadership, in fact, is through your work with rapid response groups, which I think is something that you just referenced in your statement. Generally speaking, what are rapid response groups and how do they operate in this environment?
Yeah, they're an incredible network, really coalesced by the Illinois Coalition of Immigrant Refugee Rights, but made up of thousands, probably over 4,000 plus, who are part of a citywide network. There's citywide chats, there's neighborhood chats, there's rapid response to incidents. So an incident will happen, it will be posted into the chats, and then neighbors, pastors, business leaders will respond within minutes. And it's, as far as I know, over 35 different communities or more. And so this is not just in Chicago, it's Chicagoland, and it's an incredible resource for our city.
Now is it through one of these teams, these rapid response teams, that you learned about enforcement actions by agents the morning of November 8th, 2025?
Yes. While sitting there for the breakfast meeting, the signal chat started to go off stating that there was activity in the neighborhood. And so made some calls. My team was already on the ground. And so as I finished up that meeting, I then headed out to 26 in Kedzie, but it's through the rapid response groups.
Now let's talk a little bit about where you went at about 11 o'clock that morning. I'm going to show you this first slide. It's a map of Little Village. Do you see the blue star on the right and the location of 26th and Pulaski written on it?
Yes, I do.
Or written under. And this is where you first encountered agents on November 8th, is that right?
Correct.
And this was before you encountered the Veraza family?
Correct.
Now, you'll see here on this next slide a video. Was it at around this time at 11 a.m. at 26th and Pulaski where you saw Mr. Bovino pull the pin on a canister, as you referenced?
Yes, this is 11:09 a.m. This is right as I pulled up at 26th and Pulaski. I was the first one at the intersection. And then when the car stopped right in front of me, this is the video that I started filming.
I'm going to play it now. It's about 42 seconds long, and it should have sound.
Don't do it. There's Bovino.
Now, Mr. DiMatteo, when you first saw Mr. Bovino emerge with the canister in his hand, did you feel your security or safety was at all threatened, or the safety and security of the community when he did that?
No, I mean we were driving through the community and if you see in the video, the flashbang goes off. That was the first time I've ever experienced a flashbang in person, and it's quite jarring and loud. And I was probably 40 feet from it, so the only threat I personally felt was from the agents.
For how long were you in this area of 26th and Pulaski?
Probably about 10 minutes.
Now, you mentioned that you then followed a procession of federal agents speeding down 26th Street. Is that right?
Yes.
About how many cars would you say was in this procession of cars?
There's probably 10 to 12 SUVs, ICE vehicles.
And why'd you follow them?
Because as they proceeded, wanting to make sure everybody's okay, wanting to continue to monitor what was happening.
Now, I've got on this next slide here the map of Little Village again. In what direction were the agents traveling when you followed them?
They were headed west from 26th and Pulaski toward Cicero.
And is that denoted by this yellow arrow down 26th Street?
Yes, correct.
Now, is that in the direction of a Sam's Club?
Yep, right after you pass Costner, you pass some industrial, and then the Sam's Club is next.
And is that denoted by the blue star on the left with Sam's Club written underneath?
Yes.
Now, fair to say that the Sam's Club is about 10 to 15 blocks from the location of 26th and Pulaski?
Yep.
Let's now jump to about 11:18 a.m. I want to focus on your encounter with Rafael Vazera and his family that occurred at about 11:18. On this next slide, we are going to zoom in on this map where Sam's Club is. Do you see the yellow circle?
Yes.
Is that about where you encountered the Varaza family?
Yes, pulled into the lot, and right exactly where that P circle is about where I encountered them.
And that was pretty immediately after entering the Sam's Club parking lot, is that right?
Yes.
Did you know them from before?
Never met them before that day.
And what made you stop?
So as we pulled up, a family and a small baby were there, frantically rubbing their eyes. It looked like, again, they had been tear gassed or shot with pepper bullets or something. And so we were the first car right there and just wanted to help.
Now on this next slide, we've got a video of what you just described. Is this a video that one of your staff took with the permission of Mr. Varaza?
Yeah, a team member filmed it.
Now I'm going to play it now for you in the audience. It's about 14 seconds long.
This is what ICE does. This is what these terrorists do to babies.
Mommy, you okay, Mama? You okay? You okay, Mama? You okay, Mama? You okay?
How long would you say you were at this scene for?
All in total, about 10 minutes.
And you drove Mr. Varaza to the clinic, is that right?
Correct. So as we pulled up, helped flush their eyes, realized he was in pretty panic mode and worried about the safety of his daughter and himself. So my colleague Luis and myself were in the van, and we proceeded to put him in our van and get him to medical attention.
Where was his child?
His child was in their vehicle. He was sitting right behind the driver's seat as they were driving. And then at the scene, you can see the baby outside trying to flush her eyes. And then mom and baby get back in their car and follow behind us as we head to the clinic.
Now, this next slide actually has a video from inside of your van. It doesn't have sound, but it shows a 30-second clip of your trip to the clinic. Is that right?
Yeah, yes.
And how long was that trip to the clinic overall?
Probably about 5 minutes. The clinic is at Ogden and Pulaski, and so the same distance from the initial incident to Sam's Club, it's about the same distance, so a quick 5-minute drive.
Now, it doesn't have any sound. I'm going to play it now, but you won't really need the sound to understand Mr. Barraza's state. From where you were seated, and well, before I get to that question, who's seated in the back?
That's Luis.
And Luis is one of your staff members?
He's a team member in the community, yep.
Now, as you're driving, what's going on through your mind?
So when we first pulled up on the scene, Luis is in the front seat. We encounter them, and then as we load up, we put Rafael in the back seat where Luis was in the video, and Luis is in the front seat. But Rafael is panicking, freaking out, and says, I need air, I need air. And so they actually switch places, and he goes to the front seat. And so as we turn on to Ogden, I called the health center saying, hey, we need to get somebody in quick. And so we're proceeding down Ogden, and he's hyperventilating. He's having a panic attack. He can't breathe. He had been hit completely across the side of the face. You could see the orange residue, et cetera. And so Luis got a envelope from the van that had been on the floor with some things, cleared it out, and actually had him breathe into that, was trying to calm him. But as you saw in the video, his head's out the window. He couldn't breathe at all and was really in a full panic mode.
And we had the pleasure of riding here with Luis, and Luis actually said that in the van he kept reminding Mr. Barraza to think about his 1-year-old child.
Yeah, we were really trying to calm him down in some way and saying, hey, he was guiding with him. Luis is studying masters in child development and is a great partner and friend, and really saying, hey, you need to calm down for your daughter, and trying to just get him to the clinic in a safe way. But we had the air conditioning blasting to feel the breeze on his face, but he was struggling both to breathe and regulate himself.
And just as a note to the audience, we're hoping to have Mr. Barraza here today, although he is a working man. He's doing the night shift, and we're not sure if he'll be able to make it in time, but we sure hope he will. Did you see him after he was treated at the clinic?
Yeah, I saw him later that evening. We were able to interact and connect. That's where he sent me the video that they filmed from within the car. But after 90 minutes, he was able to calm down, get treatment, and they were released from the clinic, and we talked after that.
And he showed you the video of the attack?
Yes.
And do you know who that video was taken by?
It was taken by his wife.
And do you know why she took that video?
So as they were shopping, when you're in these scenes, there's helicopters overhead, they're flying low, feels like this weird war zone experience, and cars are flying by. And so they were about to go shopping, but felt like, hey, with ICE activity in the area, they were going to leave, so they were filming the ICE activity in the area.
Now on this next slide is that video of the assault. Before I play it, I want to clarify something about the presentation of this video. There's some writing on it. Do you know how it got there?
Yeah, I placed that on there for notation when we released the videos publicly.
And it says Cicero, 26th and Ogden, Sam's Club parking lot, 11:18 a.m. Now there are, in this clip, 2 versions of this video spliced into one, the regular speed at the beginning and the slow motion version at the end. Is that right?
Correct. The initial video is very brief and quick, and if you were just watch it right away, which you will, you can barely notice things. So the second, I intentionally slowed it down frame by frame to better see what happened.
Now I'll play it. It's about 13 seconds long. There is no volume. can you describe what you saw in that video?
Yeah, so they're heading east on the little side corridor at Sam's Club. They decided not to shop because of all the presents, so they're starting to leave as the ICE vehicles that I had followed are then entering, heading west. And so there is the truck that comes in, and then reaching outside of the vehicle, they spray, and then I saw photos later of the car, front to back covered, the entire hood covered with the orange spray, the entire back of the car, and then obviously it enters the open window and hits across the left side of his face.
Now I want to transition a bit. You watched this video actually several times, is that right?
Yeah, that day, I mean, we were looking at it, trying to figure out what happened, who did it, how did it happen. It didn't fit into anything. It was a random standby in Sam's Club parking lot.
And you actually viewed several other videos from that day and photos from that day to see if you could spot that truck. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. We have throughout rapid response, and we really train people to turn your phones on to record everything. And so from early in the morning at the Kedzie incident all the way through multiple other times throughout the morning, there's videos and photos all over.
Now, you are really active in the community. You are very busy. And so why did you invest the time into conducting such a thorough review?
I mean, this is our neighborhood. This is our families. These are our people. And for the last few months before this incident, our community had been terrorized. Again, like I started out, multiple accidents and things. And so as these things happen, nobody wants this to happen. I wasn't hoping that Saturday morning would be thrown into this terror that happened. But after it does happen, I think we want to be able to see what happened in those instances, and the hope is that we can hold people accountable and find justice.
In that vein, you provided the Commission's investigation staff with videos and photos that you thought might help to identify the person who attacked the Barrazas. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the hope.
I want to focus on one of these items that you did provide. And that is a still screenshot from the video of the attack taken by Mr. Barrazas' wife. Now, why did you provide me with this screenshot in particular? What does it show?
So when you slow down the video, and I froze it here, this is one of the best shots we can see of the agent with a spray canister. You can see the clearest shot, and it's hard to see because it's so fast, but of the agent, face, the spray canister, the spray, the type of truck that was being driven, etc.
I want to focus on a couple pieces here. Do you see this yellow circle on the bottom of this photo?
Yes.
And what is it circled around, if you can see?
The title of the type of vehicle says Titan.
And do you know what company issues these types of trucks, Titan trucks?
I've learned since it's a Nissan Titan.
Now, let's take a look and focus a bit more on the driver. Do you see a yellow circle at the top right of this photo?
Yes.
And if you could just describe what you can see within.
So, driver's side of the vehicle, light complexion. You can see a mask up over the nose, some kind of piece on his head, whether it's a hat or a helmet with dark features under. And then the large canister spraying the orange chemical at the car.
And where my arrow, I guess it does not appear, unfortunately, but the lower part has the arm extended out with the canister and the orange spray, is that right?
Correct, reaching out of the vehicle from the driver's side and spraying into the car.
And the top right part within that circle shows the face, is that right, with the mask?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So let's move on then to this next slide. Now, one final question though, with respect to the truck. Do you understand it to be a four-door truck?
Yes, black four-door Nissan Titan.
And with respect to this Nissan Titan truck, you've been on the scene of over a dozen enforcement actions. You drive around, you pay attention to the types of cars that agents drive. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, sadly this morning after the operations this week, Whenever I see a large truck or SUV, my immediate response is to look at the license plate to wonder if they're from here, etc. So that's a regular practice.
And is the Nissan Titan four-door truck something that is commonly driven, at least based on your observations and experience, by federal agents?
It's not as common as the others. A lot of them are either like Chrysler Pacifica vans or a lot of larger SUVs.
So with respect to this next slide, fair to say that this is a screenshot that shows two federal agents standing at the front of a black truck?
Yes.
And this is a screenshot from a video that you provided to the commission because it shows a black Nissan Titan truck and the driver of that truck as far as you can tell from the video. Is that accurate?
Yeah, this video was shot earlier in the morning at 26th and Kedzie, facing southbound on Kedzie, right near the corner of Kedzie, and it's from a black Nissan Titan truck.
And did you carefully review this video?
Many times.
And that was from the morning of November 8th, is that right?
Yes.
And can you tell me what is described here as far as the circle around the individual in the background there?
Yeah, so from the video, as they pull up on the scene, again, truck is facing south, maybe 40 feet from the intersection of Kedzie and 26th, and the driver and passengers get out, and the yellow circle is who came out from the driver's side.
And was there anyone else who came out from that side, the driver's side of the truck, during the video that you watched?
No, not that I saw.
Now, would it be fair to say that the agent circled in yellow is a male of light complexion, has a black mask that covers his mouth and nose, and is wearing a khaki-colored hat with a black front trim?
Yes.
And do each of these identifying characteristics at least seem to match the characteristics of the driver who attacked the Barrazas, which we discussed moments ago?
Yeah, very similar, from a black truck with similar features from the slowed down video that I've provided.
I have two final questions for you. After a bit of a hiatus, Mr. Bovino and hundreds of immigration agents under his command have returned to Chicago and Little Village specifically as late as this past Tuesday. Can you tell the commission and the audience what your life has been like and the lives of community members that you're interacting with in Little Village?
Yeah, it feels like after a hiatus, it felt like things were starting to come back to normal. Business had started to pick up. People were starting to return to church and to school. Still, all of us are kind of every day waiting and wondering if something's going to happen. I was in a meeting Tuesday morning, and right outside our building, we do our annual Christmas food giveaway where we feed over 3,000 people. We were in the middle of that food giveaway when, again, the rapid response chat started to activate. Unfortunately, our food giveaway was paused and stopped, and we had word that Bovino and his team were here. And then as I got into the New Life van again, found them having a similar experience of chasing, driving around the neighborhood, arresting people, creating fear, etc. And that continued not only Tuesday of this week, but Wednesday of this week. Yesterday, I actually had a moment where I was going and they were at the very same Sam's Club Home Depot lot, and I turned in the same exact spot, and it felt like just reactivating a lot of the feelings from that day, and they continue to create chaos.
In fact, you actually had your first experience with a chemical agent, is that right? You were telling me?
Yeah, as I was driving down 26th Street yesterday, there was an incident where ICE began to spray pepper bullets at a car, and I was about 20 feet behind the ICE agent with my windows down listening, and some of that chemical pepper spray went into the van. That was my first experience. And for about 2 minutes until we flushed it out, was coughing and couldn't breathe well.
I said I had two more questions. I actually had three. I would be remiss if I didn't show you this. Are you aware of any statements provided by the Department of Homeland Security with respect to the incident we talked about the Barraza family getting sprayed by pepper spray?
Yeah, a few days after the incident, they posted on their socials on kind of a thing they talk about of telling the truth and debunking lies about this incident specifically.
And you actually, there's a video on this next slide here. You actually shared this video with me of what you saw as the official account from the federal government. Is that right?
Yes, this is from the official socials posted on Facebook by the Department of Homeland Security.
And I'll play it now.
Security. And I'm here to set the record straight on a few fake news stories from this week. First, we have another disgusting pepper spray hoax. Guys, ICE does not pepper spray children. Here are the facts. During an operation, rioters began throwing objects at agents and blocking the road. This did not occur in a Sam's Club parking lot.
What's your reaction to this account?
There's literally video evidence of them spraying a child, and it happened in the Sam's Club parking lot. The video is geocached to the Sam's Club parking lot. When we just met the family, that is the back of the Sam's Club parking lot at 26th and Ogden. So it was blatant lie and continued telling false statements.
Final question. Why are you sharing your story here today with the commission?
We demand justice. I think from a faith-based lens, our hope is justice and equity for all. How do we see everybody as someone made in the image of God, who deserves dignity, respect, opportunity, regardless of status, and we are called to love our neighbor. And so that day, that morning, and continually, we'll continue to love our neighbors, we'll continue to walk with our families, we'll continue to connect them to resources and community, and continue to stand up against systems and things that are trying to destroy families in our communities.
Thank you so much for your vital work in the community and your testimony here today before the commission. Unless the commission has any additional questions.
I just have one question, a comment and a question. The work that you do is extremely commendable. It is very impressive how you take other people first and go to the rescue. I'm very, very impressed. You're an Inspire Change Award recipient, you're a community activist. How do you take care of your own mental health and your own physical health and your own psyche so that you keep that energy and keep yourself going? How do you care for you?
Yeah, I try to really walk with, my faith is my foundation. I've been married 21 years, and my wife serves in Little Village. She works at Farragut High School. My kids gone through Farragut High School. My daughter's at UIC now. So to me, foundation of faith and family. And then knowing that we're not alone in this work. I have friends and colleagues across the city. I've been doing this 25 years and never once have felt alone in this work. So I love softball, play some softball. We were nonprofit champs for many years. Thanks to Ahmed's team, he's a Detroit Lions fan. They sent us a coach for the Bears that is doing well. So using, whether it's sport and community building, connection, I think it's about being sure that we're all well, because if some of us aren't well, then man, we can't all be well until the entire community is together and seeking justice for all. So it's about taking care of each other, and I feel blessed to do this work and blessed to be able to walk alongside neighbors, colleagues, friends, and partners. So I'm excited to continue to do that.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
I have one. Here.
Sure.
Matt, thank you again for your testimony. My question is pretty simple. Early on, when lead counsel Bissett asked you this question, did you feel threatened when Bobino pulled that pin from that upper canister looking thing? And you said, no, not really. But did you think that members of the community, the moms and dads and children, felt threatened during that moment?
Absolutely. I think my point was, as a community, a lot of the narrative being spun is that agents are under threat and there's constant violence and all of these things painted in the community. And at that moment, we were simply walking with, protecting, and guarding our neighbors. And so my comment there is about the fact that not feeling the threat was toward agents, but absolutely, I mean, to have flashbangs deployed on you, to have chemical agents. My team had, for the first time in my 25 years, I had to buy 200 gas masks and respirators for my team. And so to be buying these things to protect them from our own government is absurd. And so absolutely, I mean, the community is under threat when those things are happening. Chemical agents, I mean, in the video, he pulls the pin. So felt under threat in that way, 100%.
That's all I
Yep.
appreciate it.
Thank you again, Matt. You are far more inspiring than Ben Johnson, I will say. We will now have our next witness, Dr. Rohini Har. If folks want to take a minute just to stretch their legs, feel free.
If folks could just come this way who are waiting in that galley over here and take a seat.
Absolutely.
now proceed with a short video on the use of chemical agents in Chicago during Midway Blitz.
With pepper bullets, the residue that comes up makes it incredibly difficult to breathe. Was coughing profusely, had to rinse my mouth.
Day after day, tension-filled videos like these, taking over feeds across the country.
If someone strays into a pepper ball, then that's on them.
Look what these terrorists do to babies.
Mama, you okay, Mama? You okay? All pedestrians will move outside the road now, or you will be arrested for impeding. Let's move them out.
Come here, guys, stay back, right? Come here. You're gonna need.
The judge called out U.S. Border Patrol Chief Greg Bovino. The judge shared Bovino admitted during a deposition to lying about getting hit by a rock before he threw 2 canisters of tear gas into the crowd.
Hear the testimony of Dr. Rohini Har. Not this one.
The other one.
Yeah.
There you go.
But can you do it?
It's not there though.
Is that?
No.
Just duplicate the screen. Just let's do this.
Can you do the presenter view?
So
The presenter view you had on the other one? The presenter view you
yeah,
had on
it's
the
not popping up. I think there's some settings behind.
Huh?
I think there's some settings you have on this
Computer?
presentation, and this presentation that's not allowing that. I don't know.
Okay. Is there a way to get it? Or no, that's okay.
Do you have that on your laptop?
Uh-huh.
Just open your laptop. Let me have your laptop. Open it.
One sec.
Thank you for your patience.
Let me take it out.
Yeah, sure. Dr. Har, if-
I can just use the notes from here if that's easy.
do you want to just click yourself?
Sure.
Or I can click for you.
Hi.
Dr. Har, thank you for your patience. Could you please start?
Good morning, Chicago.
Good morning.
Thank you for the commissioners and the council for inviting me to provide this testimony. And I was asked to speak a little bit about my own experience before starting. I am an emergency medicine physician based in California, and I'm grateful to actually have done most of my schooling, both college and medical school, right here at the University of Chicago. For the past decade, my research has been at the intersection of what is frequently called health and human rights, issues like torture, both in detention and right here on the streets, that require medical expertise as well as an understanding. Can you all hear me? Get closer.
A little closer to this one.
This one.
Yes.
As well, is that better? Oh, yeah. As well as an understanding of epidemiology and the law. I'm lucky to be faculty at the University of Chicago, at the University of California in Berkeley, in public health and law, where I can do this work. And for my work here on crowd control weapons, I speak to you today on behalf of two incredible organizations. Physicians for Human Rights, or PHR, shared the Nobel Peace Prize for campaigning to ban landmines in 1997, but have been working on crowd control weapons since their inception a decade before that. The International Network of Civil Liberties Organizations is a coalition of over 15 civil liberties organizations that face many of the same issues around the world. The most famous member is the ACLU here in the United States, but the others are equally important in all of those different countries. Despite being in such far-off places, people all over the world are dealing with a lot of the same problems. And Chicago, unfortunately, may be leading the pack here in the United States, but it's not unique. The widespread growth of police militarization that one of the commissioners mentioned and control of protests matches well with the growth of the use of crowd control weapons and the harms that they cause. The issue is global and local. Our team is composed of more than 30 liaisons and point people from around the world, physicians like me, lawyers, and advocates. And the data I'm presenting today is based on a composition of research over a decade. For this project, we aim to understand the weapons, how they worked, what's used, how they cause injuries. At the same time, we've interviewed dozens of experts across the globe to understand the context under which crowd control weapons are used and misused. And finally, we look at injuries. The most powerful and credible way that we've found to understand injuries is to look at published medical literature. That's basically hundreds of physicians and scholars who've seen patients with injuries, have painstakingly documented those injuries, and then published reports. And we found over 100,000 of these patients, but that's just a skim of the total injuries. It just gives an idea of the range. Together, these dimensions of research help us understand the issues around speech, protests, crowd control weapons, and we study not just the weapons, but how they are used, the injuries, and what policies might protect both health and our basic rights. So I'm here today to share some data with all of you on the chemical irritants that are used globally and right here in Chicago, the health harms that are caused by such weapons, you've already seen examples of that, and maybe what we can do about it. And I use some famous protests from Chicago over the years as the background of those slides. I call them crowd control weapons, but they're often also called less lethal weapons. But I'd postulate that lethality is up in the air. Lethality depends on how they are used and on who. And we also call them crowd control weapons, but that's not perfect either. Frequently, they're not used on crowds. They're used on small groups, or as you've seen in some of these examples, on individuals. And they're not really used to control crowds, but potentially to disperse, punish, or suppress. Of course, there's a variety of crowd control weapons or less lethal weapons. Today, we're focusing on chemical irritants because that's so commonly used, but certainly not the only ones. Kinetic impact projectiles, you'll often hear them called rubber bullets. There's over 80 different kinds of them, and they're used quite frequently as well. Batons are probably the most famous historical police weapon, and sound and water cannons are seen more and more frequently globally. You've mentioned flashbangs here in Chicago. Those are stun grenades, also called that, and they've been used in Chicago often in conjunction with other weapons. And while we haven't maybe seen drones or tasers used in protests, it may not be far off. So today's focus is on chemical irritants, perhaps one of the oldest of these weapons. Chemical irritants were developed more than 100 years ago. And there's actually two larger classes of those. Agent CS, which is commonly called tear gas, includes a category including CN, CR, CX, which are even more potent forms. CS was developed in the 1920s in the United States as a military weapon. It's a solid white powder that is mixed with a solvent and then aerosolized, heated, or exploded to create a cloud of gas in the air. Mace, which many of you may have heard of, is CN gas, similar to CS, but older. Agent OC is commonly called pepper and is the active chemical in cayenne peppers that makes them spicy and is available in different concentrations as an oil in a solvent or also in a powder. Pava is the synthetic form of it. These are highly potent weapons. When I say is the form of cayenne pepper, we're talking about something like 10 to 100,000 times more concentrated than the spiciest of ghost peppers. The important thing to remember about these weapons is that these were originally manufactured for use by postal service workers on wild animals. But now they've obviously spread into personal protection and, unfortunately, policing. Ultimately, these weapons act in a very similar way. Ostensibly, without causing permanent injuries, they cause what we say is pain compliance. They cause pain and harm to force people to comply. They come in contact with pain receptors on the skin, the eyes, and any other membranes that they touch, and activate a receptor that causes pain but also heat. Let me jump to the next slide. I'll thank Amnesty for this beautiful slide, but it's not just the active ingredient. There are a lot more chemicals involved, and we don't actually know what all of those are. There's something to start the ignition and set it off, to disperse the agent, and to explode it out into the air. Unfortunately, there is no control and no international regulation of what's inside, and no transparency about how much you can put inside a canister. Concentrations, therefore, vary widely, and we just don't even know who's manufacturing it in one country, or exactly how much, or what's tested. The deployment mechanism also matters. Grenades and canisters, sprays and projectiles. Canisters are usually shot out of launchers and they can move quite fast, while grenades often are thrown. Both methods produce a cloud of chemicals, usually within a second or two. And that's important to remember, that that cloud is indiscriminate. It is going to touch whoever it touches. Once you spray it, it's really hard to control where that goes. The spray is an aerosolized stream of irritants. You've often heard of pepper spray. It can be sprayed at distances like close range, up to 20 feet, and that can directly strike people or groups. The issues with the spray is that in some cans, it doesn't have a dose cutoff, so you could spray a lot at an individual or a person, and you can inject that right into somebody's eyes. And a pepper ball, of course, the powder is contained inside a thin coated spherical projectile. It's similar to a paintball, but actually much harder, and the coating is much thicker and hurts more. Chemical irritants globally have also been dissolved in water or fire hoses, but I haven't seen that here in the US yet. The main point about this weapon that I want you to remember are two. One, chemical irritants are inherently indiscriminate. Once you fire it, there is no saying where the wind blows or who it targets. You cannot control an individual with this, and you can't target it. The second point I want to make is that the harms caused depend on a few small things. How much is used, how long, what the agent is, and who is hit. It's also important to remember that these are called riot control agents. They're banned in war by the Chemical Weapons Convention and permitted, quote, for law enforcement, including domestic riot control purposes. In the 18,000 police departments in the United States, each and every single one of them has use of force policies, and every one that I've seen, which is a lot, call for the use of these weapons only when there is a threat to public safety, imminent harm, or a public threat. Those are loosely defined terms, but still important. I've reviewed some of the health harms over the years, and I won't go into my 250-page report, but I will say that chemical irritants can affect and do injure many different parts, if not every single part of the body. Let me touch on a few now, and I'll just warn you that I have a few graphic slides. You can look away if it is going to bother you. Let me start with ocular injuries. Perhaps the first thing one thinks of, because they're called tear gas after all. But these don't include just tearing. There's redness and conjunctival injection, but also involuntary spasms of the eyelid, like you can imagine if you got hot pepper in your eye and you can't control that, and temporary blindness. You can see in that gentleman that was driving that involuntary blindness can really create secondary harm as well if you can't drive. And if you're trying to disperse a crowd, being unable to see can cause a lot of anxiety, panic, and sometimes stampedes. When it's sprayed directly or in high concentrations, this also causes long-term permanent disability, including corneal ulcers and erosions. And that blindness, there's reports of that being permanent as well. Dermal injuries or skin injuries are so common, they're rarely reported, but I think they have to be considered injuries. They, of course, include this activation of pain receptors and severe pain in the exposed skin. This can be temporary, but as you described, it can last many more minutes than you think it can, and especially if the concentration is high or people can't get away. In this individual, this is a British military officer who was wearing a mask, and you can see the area that was exposed has blistering with several hours. And if you're, for instance, going to multiple protests and you get repeat exposures, you can also develop an allergic reaction to this. A lot of you have described coughing when you have been exposed to that. Coughing is a symptom of feeling like you're suffocating or can't breathe. And most people who get away can feel, everyone who feels tear gas will cough and feel that breathing problem. And it's temporary. But again, if you're in an enclosed space or you can't get away, this can result in significant lung injury, sometimes permanent, and sometimes you can see that in Bronx in the ICU. The canisters themselves are a frequent cause of severe blunt trauma. Bruising and pain are common, but internal injuries and skull fractures are also reported. And those pepper balls, the use of those is growing. They don't just cause pain. The chemical inside can cause direct trauma as well. One thing I consider is that they really push the chemical inside places. So when they hit more delicate areas like the eye or the ear, it's more than just walking into a cloud. It's having the gas shoved inside you. And as I mentioned, all different parts of your body. For your heart, especially people with high blood pressure or heart rate problems, they can have higher or longer term issues. Gastrointestinal issues like vomiting or diarrhea. Women have reported menstrual changes with repeated exposures. And I cannot overstate the panic and the anxiety reactions. And larger studies in Turkey and elsewhere have shown long-term PTSD from repeated exposures. And as I mentioned, it's really important to think about who is being targeted and who is being indiscriminately targeted. Children, of course, have the more of the long-term psychological issues, but also they have more skin per body surface per mass. And so their skin is more gentle and delicate, but also they just have more skin than us, adults. And so they can get a lot more exposure. The elderly have more fragile skin and also might have a harder time getting away. And people with pre-existing medical conditions like asthma or COPD or allergic reactions, they can have a lot more problems as well. The general perception is that these weapons have mostly short-term effects like irritation of the eyes or dermal pain. But a systematic review of the medical literature that we've conducted twice now, documenting the health effects of chemical irritants, has identified over 100,000 people who suffered injuries. 14 people have died, all of those because of trauma inflicted from a canister. And while chemical irritants are often thought of as causing minimal transient harm, these findings identify longer-term risks, including permanent disability. especially when they are misused. From our background work and the interviews, I've also thought that context is key. And these are the two questions that I want to ask today. One, should these weapons even be used in every single one of these incidents? For those, is there a threat? Are there other options? Is force going to actually limit free speech or protect public health? And the second is, when it is it being used as safely as possible? Are precautions being taken? Are we limiting indiscriminate harm to bystanders? And are we avoiding firing directly? When they're used, here's some of the things that I think of when I operationalize this definition. Let me walk through them. The first is enclosed spaces. Are these being used in places like cars or inside buildings? Is there distinction? Are vulnerable groups present and are they being protected? Are precautions being taken? Are they fired when there's not safe egress available? Are excessive amounts being used, especially disproportionately excessive amounts? Are they being fired directly at groups or individuals? Is there access to health services, which should be unrestricted? And that bigger question, are they being fired when a threat is not even present? To prepare for the hearing today, I've reviewed not only our existing data, but have spent some time looking at what's been happening in Chicago. Vis-a-vis chemical irritants, there have been a range of weapons and deployment mechanisms used. All four of those that I've mentioned: pepper spray, canisters, grenades, and pepper balls, as well as other projectiles. And even before jumping into specific incidents and weapons, the patterns and trends tell an important story. I've looked at a lot of cases over the past week or two. There is no case I've seen where the use of weapons has been indicated or justified or warranted even to begin with. And I'm not the only one saying that. Block Club's analysis up to October 1st has concluded the same. And in at least 24 incidents reported by Bellingcat in the UK, where weapons were deployed, there was really not one with a serious threat. So looking at those indications of misuse, enclosed spaces, we've seen evidence of it being used inside cars. Without distinction, I've seen cases at a children's Halloween parade and the elderly being targeted. Precautions not taken. Precautions include things like warnings, and oftentimes those are not happening. And then there's really no other actions being taken before force is used. Excessive amounts, frequent use of multiple rounds without really any threat. Fired directly at protesters or individuals, yes, frequently at short distances. Access to health services. If an officer injures a victim, they're supposed to check on that victim, and I haven't seen a single case where that's happened. And that big question, fired without a threat present, that's virtually all cases. From our overall data, the evidence is clear for me, and it applies in Chicago. Their use appears to be expanding from large protests like Black Lives Matter to smaller demonstrations around these immigration raids, and even to simple road obstructions and local residents. There have been significant injuries, both minor and major, and in Chicago. The irritants have and will continue to result in psychological symptoms. These projectiles they're growing in use and resulting in significant trauma, especially if they hit the head or the face. And finally, these videos from civilians have provided more and more evidence, more than ever, but the evidence is still skimming the surface. There are far more people exposed, coughing, uncomfortable, and having anxiety than we are even trying to count. So, my conclusion is that 1, the use of force is occurring by and large unjustified, and 2, when it is being used, basic protocols that would protect health and limit injuries are not being followed. This understanding of the use of force begs the question, are officers using these weapons for protection of public safety of civilians? Are they using it for punishment, for collective punishment? Are they chilling our right to free speech and assembly? While this is happening across your city, you may ask, what should I do about it? On the larger stage, it's imperative that the model of this Illinois Accountability Commission scale up to other cities, and we encourage justice and reparations. And on the individual scale, I can speak as a doctor on protecting your own health and ensuring that you collect evidence if you're harmed. Before protests, I encourage you to plan ahead, wear protective clothing, travel with trusted friends, communicate with your leadership. During the event, the best ways to be safe are, of course, to respect the law and remain peaceful, and to have strong situational awareness. And if you see or experience incidents of force, document them on your phone. After an incident, the most important thing if you've been exposed is to decontaminate. That means fresh air, removing your clothing, washing with soap and water. Seek care if your symptoms last more than an hour or two, and preserve that evidence. I think Matt already spoke about this, but collectively, the trauma inflicted by the use of force is often called the chilling effect. Ongoing force, violence, and other police actions in aggregate can chill our right to assembly and free speech. As individuals, I urge you to use the ABCs as a simple way to consider how these experiences are traumatizing you and how you can combat that. A, awareness. Be aware of how you're feeling. B, seek balance between the political scene and your family and good things. And C, find connection. Don't sit with this alone. And as I mentioned, you can also combat this chilling effect with solidarity, just like what we've seen today, particularly documenting and posting your experiences. Chicago has a proud history of protest and free speech. I protested here all through college and medical school. It's wonderful that this commission aims to keep it going. I want to thank you, the governor, Councilor Bassett, and the entire team and the commissioners here, especially Commissioner Zesch, who is my college professor. I'm proud to have learned so much from her, and I'm happy to answer any questions. But really, as a human rights advocate, I would say it takes all of us to ensure our rights to expression and assembly and to protect health and limit those injuries. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you. Thank you so much for that highly informative and very practical presentation. As I'm pulling up my own slides, Dr. Har, I did have an initial question. You mentioned the need to videotape incidents.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for how much of that, how much videotaping to do and how to maybe do it? Because you review a lot of these, and what's helpful to you when you're reviewing it?
Yes, I'm lucky to work at the Human Rights Center, Berkeley, which has written the Berkeley Protocol on open source evidence. And the few pieces of advice I have is, if your video incidents, take long videos, not just a few seconds. Try to capture the context, not just one short place, but the whole thing. Don't manipulate those videos, and then share them widely is the easy version of that. And I'd also say keep videoing after an injury or an incident has taken place, so we can really see the aftermath as well.
Now, I have some follow-up questions about some specific incidents of chemical weapons use during Operation Midway Blitz. Jumping to this first slide, in terms of your scope of review, is it accurate that your review consisted of examining videos, photos, and open source reporting of events?
Yes, so many photos and videos, yes.
A lot of emails with photos and videos, yes. This map shows over a dozen blue and red stars on a map of Chicago and surrounding communities. The stars on the map reflect locations where chemical weapons were used by federal agents during Midway Blitz, incidents that you specifically reviewed in preparing your testimony today. The red stars, in particular, denote incidents that we will be examining at greater length.
That's right.
Now, before we begin, it is important to note that any video that we play will inherently lack full context. So the Commission understands that your assessment today are limited to your observations of videos and any other credible information known about the incident in question.
Mm-hmm.
Now, moving to this next slide. I want to set a bit of context. It pertains to a flashpoint event that occurred in the neighborhood of Brighton Park on October 4th. That day, Brighton Park residents took to the streets to protest after agents shot a motorist. Charges alleged by the federal government against the motorist were later dropped. In confronting protesters in Brighton Park, federal agents used tear gas and pepper spray at least 15 times, according to reporting from Block Club Chicago. This was more than the Chicago Police Department has used all year. Of these 15 deployments, 10 appeared to target nonviolent protesters, and only 3 occurred after objects were thrown toward agents. This first video clip that I'm about to play shows one such encounter that agents had with a protester. Well, 2. You will see 2 agents armed with what appear to be pepper ball guns. This clip lasts for about 20 seconds and has no sound. I'll play it now. And just before we even begin, do you see a blue box?
I do, yes.
What do you understand that to be? If you can tell at this stage.
I can't tell yet.
Okay, I will play it. I can pause it.
That looks like one of the dropped weapons.
And did you see the boxes that appeared numbered 1, 2, 3?
That's right, yes.
What do you understand that to be?
Those appear to be projectiles that are shot at the ground.
Were the projectiles that were shot to the ground, were they directed at people that were advancing or approaching the agents?
No, they were not.
Now, based on your review, do you have any opinion on whether a chemical weapon was misused in this incident?
I think that first question of should there even be a chemical weapon used here, the answer is no.
And why is that?
Well, there's no imminent threat to public safety, and there's no one being violent here, except the officers.
Now, I noticed that it appeared at the beginning part that the agent had put down a pepper ball gun. Is that fair to say?
Mm-hmm.
And in certain contexts, can pepper ball guns be considered deadly weapons?
I think most police use of force protocols that I've seen have said that when they are used towards the head or the face, that's only when lethal force is justified, that those should be used.
I want to move on to the next incident. This occurs on October 31st in Evanston. It's another flashpoint event. Now, this past Halloween in Evanston, residents gathered to protest after a car accident between an agent and motorist. Just a few blocks away from a middle school and an elementary school, and mere hours before children were about to go trick-or-treating, agents used physical violence to restrain the motorist and another man. One agent also pointed a gun and threatened to shoot a group of residents. A total of 3 citizens were arrested. As this next video will show, one agent also sprayed a protester. I will play this video now, which lasts about 17 seconds. Now, based on your review, do you have an opinion on whether a chemical weapon was misused in this instance?
I think yes, a chemical weapon was misused. One, they sprayed without any real threat present. This person is not obstructing anything or causing any harm. But 2, he's also spraying this poor gentleman in the face, which, you know, as I mentioned, can cause significant eye trauma and is completely unnecessary here.
I want to move on to the next incident. This is in Little Village on November 8th, 2025. To set the context, as we already know from Matt DiMattio's testimony, federal agents that morning conducted immigration enforcement operations in Little Village. On multiple occasions, they used chemical weapons on the civilian population. This next video clip shows one such moment involving Enrique Villano. I will now play the clip for you, which will be about 18 seconds.
Go backwards! Hey, Bambino! Your cars can't reverse! Chicago, get the fuck out of here! Welcome to Chicago! Welcome to...
Now, according to a court filing, Bahena was shot in the neck from 5 feet away with a pepper ball. In addition, reporting from the Bellingcat investigative team reveals that the weapon used by the agent was a BNT GL-06 40mm launcher. Now, based on your review and the information provided, do you have an opinion on whether a chemical weapon was misused in this instance?
I mean, yes, obviously it was. There's a few things I think about. One is there's no threat present. This person is obviously videoing something and is not like harming anybody. Number two, screaming at these protesters is not prior warning before a weapon is used, and warning is expected. As soon as he raises his weapon, he fires it, giving no opportunity for this person to get away. And then shooting from 5 feet away at the head, or especially at the neck, can be incredibly dangerous. And actually, that's where I mentioned that it's considered lethal force to use a 40mm launcher against someone's head or face at short range.
In fact, according to Bellingcat's reporting, the technical specifications for their 40mm projectiles state that, quote, shots to the head, neck, spine, or heart are to be avoided unless lethal force is justified, and advise users to aim at the waistline.
Yeah, or lower.
Or lower. Now, do you generally know whether, if there's information about the types of weapons used in Chicago and specifications about them, concentrations, or what's the specific agent in it?
So the problem is that none of this is transparent or regulated. What we get is often used up canisters, and we have to go back trace it, find the manufacturer, and then do this, like Bellingcat has done. The police, and certainly not the federal agents, are not providing this information or being transparent about what's in their arsenal. And there's no national or international laws regulating what weapons are used, what the density or concentration is in those weapons, and so it ranges widely. I'll actually mention another issue with that is that the specs are different on different launchers and weapons, and so even police and officers are using different weapons every day. They're not trained on every single one of those to know which is which and what's safe at what distance, and so their use of it is pretty indiscriminate.
Are you aware of if that's typical training for officers or agents that use this type of weapons?
So the police officers that I've interviewed over the years, your average police officer gets something like 1 hour of protest training in their entire, boot camp. And these federal officers, I don't know if they get any training on actual, protection of free speech and assembly.
Knowledge, yeah. Moving to the next incident. We'll discuss briefly what happened in Cicero and to the Veraza family. I take it that you listened to the testimony of Mr. DiMatteo. You were sitting right next to us. You viewed those videos, and based on your review, what's your assessment in terms of whether this weapon was misused on this day?
Of those misuse categories that I outlined earlier, this fits so many of them. To fire without precaution, to check that there was a kid there, there's no threat or harm being done. It's fired directly on somebody's face and in an enclosed place where there's no egress. And then this gentleman was driving, and he could have caused an accident, hurting many other people. Thank goodness he was able to pull over, but the whole thing is just like line by line misuse of irritants.
I want to move on to the next slide, which is about an incident in Little Village here on October 23rd, 2025. That day, Little Village residents gathered to demonstrate against immigration enforcement activity led by Bovino. At the time, a district court judge here in Chicago had issued a temporary restraining order that prohibited federal agents from using pepper spray or tear gas on protesters who did not pose an immediate safety threat. Now, I will play this video for you.
Get the fuck out! Where is my people?
Now, with respect to this test, what we just saw, this judge indicated that Bovino had admitted that he was never hit by a rock, even though he stated previously he had been hit by a rock for having, as the reason for why he threw these canisters. Now, based on your review, I know it's limited. I know the video, the angles are not fully comprehensive, but what's your assessment in terms of whether this is a misuse or not?
I'll mention 2 points here. One is that, again, there's no threat, there's no need to use these weapons. 2, there's almost no warning before that's thrown. And 3, when the leadership of an organization is doing this, this provides cover for everyone under him, and this is obviously just a real top-down problem.
You made this point earlier about the indiscriminate nature of how these weapons are used. You also heard earlier in the montage Mr. Bovino state, if someone strays into a pepper ball, that's on them. What is your reaction to that in light of what you had discussed relating to the indiscriminate nature of these weapons?
Pepper balls come out of the launcher as fast as bullets. They obviously slow down in the air, and they have unpredictable patterns, sure. But no one can stray into a pepper ball that's targeted and hit at people at very fast pace. And while that's on the theoretical side, on the practical side, there's no examples of anyone straying into a pepper ball. These are being aimed at people.
Finally, our last slide. It's about the Block Club reporting that is done in collaboration with various other investigative news outlets about the use of chemical weapons here in Chicago. Of note, between October 1st and November 19th, the use of these weapons occurred at least 49 times across 18 incidents. 30 of these deployments occurred after a federal district court judge had placed restrictions. Their conclusion here, I think, is one I wanted to get your take on. Contrary to federal claims about attacks on agents, most of these incidents appear to involve nonviolent protesters or bystanders. Is that your assessment as well, based on your review of the material?
That is my conclusion as well. And I will say that beyond that, even if there were incidents of violence, which there were not, chemical agents are not the answer.
And so is the answer then that they just go approach the person who is causing the problem as opposed to using a chemical weapon that impacts indiscriminately?
Crowd control policing has a range of different ways of doing this. The number one way is just communication, acknowledgement of human dignity, and understanding that police's job is to protect public safety and not to threaten public safety. I would start there and then move towards what follows from that, which is really talking to protesters and ensuring that their voices are heard.
Do you have any final concluding thoughts before we wrap up?
I will say that I really appreciate you describing the injuries. I'm an ER doc by day, and I've seen so many cases of people coming in. When they say that pepper spray is temporary, that's a very loose term. That can last hours, and it's so incredibly painful. Police officers often don't use that in one-on-one policing because it sprays back in their face, and they hate it too. So I just want to strike the chord that this is grounded in real, this is real pain. These are real injuries here.
thank you for your extensive work in this field and your invaluable expertise for the Commission and our audience today. With that, I submit the witnesses for any additional questioning from the Commissioners.
Sure. I want to thank you on behalf of the entire Commission, Doctor, for traveling the week before Christmas to come and give us this valuable testimony. We made you look at all these videos, and I apologize for that. They're difficult to even watch here in this setting. How many hours would you say you prepared to give your testimony?
Probably like 30.
Okay. And is it true that we did not compensate you for that?
No, you did not.
Okay. And is it also true that we just told you to come here and tell it like it is? That is, tell the truth, give the public the benefit of your expertise.
That's right.
And other than covering your reasonable travel expenses, you were willing to do this?
Yes. Yes, I think it's important to bear witness to what's going on here, and you're really setting a precedent for our country.
One of the points you make is that the use of chemical weapons is not just a temporary harm. It could be permanent, certainly psychological, but also physical, correct?
Correct.
You also made the point that some of these weapons have been banned in warfare, but are used by law enforcement?
That's right. You can't use riot control agents in war because A, they can be considered real chemical weapons, and B, that confuses and terrifies people, as it does in the United States.
One of the things that we consistently saw is there's different dates that these weapons are being used. Like you were shown clips from early October, middle October, late October, now November, and yet the behavior remains the same. Does that imply a lack of training and a lack of discipline?
I think beyond lack of training and discipline, which are both true, it also implies impunity, which allows this to continue.
So the impunity, the point you made there is when we see leadership like Agent Bonvino himself pulling the pin and using these weapons, that encourages, and I think your words were, gives cover to everyone else.
That's
right.
right.
Is that correct?
That's right.
Would you agree with his statement that the behavior of his agents has been more than exemplary?
I think
that's how he described it.
There's every single case I've seen of this has been excessive use of force.
Thank you. Yep.
Good morning, Dr. Har. Thanks again for your comprehensive presentation. I really, it was very well done. And I'd just like to make the further point that the Chicago Police Department does not even authorize their personnel to carry chemical weapons. If there had to be an instance where chemical weapons were to be used or had to be used in a serious threat of public safety or a riot situation, that authorization would have to come from someone right beneath maybe the superintendent's office. And those weapons would have to be brought to the scene by trained personnel who were capable of using them. So those are never routinely used in the city.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
And I'm Cindy Sam, a former commander with the Chicago Police Department, so I'm aware of their tactics.
I wanted to just say how proud I am of Rohini, who's our former student, and mention someone who Rohini said I could have the honor of mentioning, the late Dr. Robert Kirshner, who was her mentor while in college and in medical school and after. And Bob Kirshner died tragically from disease at the age of 61, so we missed out on decades of his expertise. He is the forensic pathologist who, in addition to all of his international efforts, was the chief expert witness in the Wilson brothers trial, which opened the door to understanding what was going on under Commander John Burge in the torture of over 100 Chicago residents. Bob was an expert on torture. Rohini succeeded him on the United Nations Committee, informally known as the Istanbul Protocols, who are an international panel of doctors who define the medical diagnosis of torture. So we are really lucky that she was able, as a mother of 4, to come here and give us her expert testimony today. So further thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner Zesh. And actually, I'll mention, most of my research is on torture, but the UN Convention on Torture has held a series of reports and meetings, and the use of crowd control weapons unnecessarily is now defined as extracustodial use of torture.
Dr. Har, thank you so much for your testimony. I'm Aurora Austriac. I'm one of the commissioners. You mentioned earlier that police officers or law enforcement get trained, especially on chemical weapons or whatever else that we're using here, less lethal weapons. And it is, you mentioned that it is common knowledge that they know that if you aim this less lethal weapons towards the face or the neck, that could actually cause death. So it's not just a less lethal weapon, it could actually be lethal. So in the video that was shown, where the federal officer actually pointed it short distance, 5 feet towards the neck, one can assume that this individual knows what they're doing and they're meant to possibly inflict serious injury or even kill that individual.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I think that's where the question is, like, this is clearly not protecting public safety. It's punishing that individual, causing significant injury. And then I'll double down that seeing that is chilling other people's willingness to go out to speak. And that has this broader impact as well.
Thank you so much. My second follow-up question is on the impact and the effect long-term. You've shown a lot of videos affecting adults. We've seen a video with the family where a child, a 1-year-old child, was actually pepper sprayed. I wonder if there's a study, long-term study that you have for a child, if exposed to certain chemicals, could cause cancer, could cause a lot of other diseases that could actually shorten their lives or really, affect their growing up.
It's so hard to conduct these studies because, there's so many other things that could cause that over someone's life. But we have done a couple longer-term studies. I've done one in the West Bank, which showed repeat exposure, like almost every day over a year, that showed a lot of different symptoms that happen long-term when that happens. And then there's been studies in Portland on the long-term menstrual impacts of that, as well as globally on children and how impacted they can be from this long-term.
Great, thank you so much.
Can I say something there too? More on and Raphael, unfortunately, I'm proud of him and his wife. He's working 2 jobs right now and he's continued to have to stay at his overnight job. But when I talked to them earlier in the week, preparing their schedule, et cetera, he had mentioned that almost a month later, their 1-year-old daughter, her eyes are constantly, she's constantly bothered by her eyes. And so they took her to an eye doctor on Monday, and now they're recommending that she goes to a specialist to further check it out. So not sure the exact tie, I'm obviously not a medical expert, but just a practical implication from 1 month later, still continuing to see the impact on their daughter.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. DiMatteo and Dr. Har. Your testimony was riveting, both of you. We are so grateful and thankful for you sharing your stories and your information, your data. It's extremely impressive. We're up here passing notes saying how impressive you guys are and how this has just been magnificent. And we definitely appreciate, and we recognize that speaking in situations like this, takes courage, and we appreciate that you had the courage. We're grateful for your willingness to contribute to the public record for the Accountability Commission. So thank you very, very much. We will now move into the public comment portion of today's hearing. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, thank you for allowing me to interrupt. I actually just had two pieces of information. One, actually, Matt, if you could update as far as just whether Mr. Barraza will be able to join us today.
Yeah. As stated, unfortunately, he was hoping he could be here. They called him in overnight to be able to work, and he thought he would get off at 9, but has had challenges, so he's still at work even now. And in talking to them too, I think part of that is, and I'm super proud of them, because when we did, the 8th was a Saturday, Evelyn was starting a new job on Monday the 10th, and so even in the middle of all of this, they're a young family trying to really care for their daughter, and so she has a new job and he's working 2 jobs. So unfortunately, time ran out and he's not able to join us today.
Thank you. Now, on behalf of the Commission's investigation team, with respect to the information that we learned about what happened at 11:19 a.m. in Little Village, in the Sam's Club parking lot, involving the Barrazas, the investigation team has a referral to make. We have heard testimony today from Matt DiMatteo and Dr. Rohini Har. Their testimony, combined with the video evidence, shows that a federal agent sprayed Mr. Barraza and his family with a chemical agent without provocation or just cause. That as a result of being exposed to a chemical agent, Mr. Barraza and his 1-year-old daughter continue to suffer mental and health consequences. Further, through the help of community members, we have identified a person of interest, a federal agent who appears to be responsible for this brazen attack. And I recommend to the Commission that the Commission refer this matter to the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Inspector General. Even if they will not act now, the information from this investigation should be memorialized for a future investigation with the expectation that justice will be done in this matter. Further, I recommend the Commission explore additional referrals based on the investigation team's findings.
And certainly, Mr. Bassett, the Commission will make that referral and explore other referrals if they're unwilling to act.
Thank you. And with that, Judge Holmes, thank you for allowing me to interrupt.
Thank you. No, that was a really good reason to stop, so thank you. So we'll now move into the public comment portion of today's hearing, and I want everyone to understand this is a very critical portion of our work because we will be hearing directly from the public. And so here's how this will work. We have selected 20 commentators through a combination of advanced sign-in and in-person registration today. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak. We're trying to hear from as many people as we possibly can, and so therefore we're allowing 2 minutes per speaker. And while you do not have to speak the entire 2 minutes, unfortunately we cannot allow you to speak longer than the 2 minutes. So a timer will keep us on schedule. You'll see 1 minute, you'll see 30 seconds, and then at the conclusion of that 30 seconds, we'll ask you to wrap up your comments. We ask that the speakers direct your comments to the Commission and to focus on your own experience and observations and concerns. And while we understand that emotions may be strong, personal attacks and disruptions cannot be permitted in this forum. So to those of you who may be in the audience who have not been selected to speak today, please understand there will be additional opportunities at other hearings in the coming months. And so you can try and get into the lottery or sign up or go onto our website and be in communication so that you can attempt to be on the list. We can also accept written testimony from individuals. If you don't get an opportunity to speak publicly, you can always write your statement and turn it in. We will read those statements, and we may even call you and speak directly with you briefly, even if you cannot speak publicly. This is your commission, your voice matters, and whether you speak today or submit a statement in some other form, we appreciate it. We will look at it. It will become part of the record. So we will now begin public comment by welcoming Deputy Mayor of Immigrant, Migrant, and Refugee Rights, Ms. Beatriz Ponce de Leon.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I'm Beatriz Ponce de Leon. I'm the Deputy Mayor for Immigrant, Migrant, and Refugee Rights for the City of Chicago. This is a new office that Mayor Johnson launched in 2023 to focus on uplifting immigrant rights and on providing opportunity for people who want to make Chicago their home. I'm grateful to the commitment from the mayor, not only the vision to open this office, but also to continue to uphold and fight for our immigrants, communities, and immigrant rights. My testimony today will be to share some of what we have seen at the city in my role and in working with departments in our partnerships with community organizations and advocates and individual Chicagoans across the city. It's a privilege to be here today. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you to the commissioners, the staff of the IAC, and to Governor Pritzker for launching this commission to really take a deep look at the harms that have been caused by immigration enforcement. It's clear from what we've seen today and what many of us have experienced that the dangerous and reckless actions of CBP, of ICE, and other federal agents have harmed our communities, have caused trauma, and will have a lasting impact on our city, our neighbors, our individual residents of Chicago. Our administration has seen drops in school attendance, very clearly linked to traumatic incidents that take place in neighborhoods. We've seen fewer visits to our libraries. We've seen an increased need for housing, for emergency shelter, and we have seen a need and a loss among our small businesses, especially immigrant-owned businesses, in their revenue. We know this is happening because people are scared, they're terrorized, and they are withdrawing from public life due to the intentionally harmful and lawless actions of federal agents. These very agents are purporting to enforce the law while they themselves are trespassing on private property. They try to stage on city-owned lots at our schools and other places. They have tear gas without cause, as you've seen, and without warning or any interest in the safety of the people around them. They're speeding through the streets of Chicago. They are causing car accidents, intentionally ramming into vehicles. They're breaking car windows to violently reach in and yank people out of their vehicles. They're punching, shoving, slamming people into the ground, shooting at them, and killing, as we saw in Franklin Park. And they must be held accountable. We also know that the majority of these immigration detentions or these arrests or kidnappings, as people see them, are warrantless. They are not using warrants. They are racial profiling and going where they think people, Latino people, immigrants will be. I want to say a moment to say that Chicago is not easily broken, and we have all seen it. This room is evidence of that. We have come together, rapid responders, community members, leaders, and government, to fight back against these injustices and to begin to hold them accountable. At the city, we were able to launch the Protecting Chicago initiative, a massive Know Your Rights and family preparedness campaign. We've used the power of executive order to strengthen our Welcoming City ordinance, to continue to further support people's right to protest and freedom of speech, and to make sure that our departments, all of them, are in compliance with the ordinance and continue to support immigrant rights. I want to say that we know local, city, and state government can't do this alone, and we have to hold our federal government accountable. So to that end, we need to shine a light on these harms that are being caused. We need to name what is happening, focus on the truth, and gather the evidence that we can use in the future. I thank you, the Commission, thank the state of Illinois, and all of our partners who are here for making the space to do that work. And I urge you to continue to center, as you did today, the voices of the people that are most impacted. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Quinn McCallis, and following Quinn, Chad Curry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Quinn McCallis, and I am a federal criminal defense attorney and founder of the Edgeville Community Rapid Response Team. Yesterday, after a live streamer documenting Bovino's caravan was pulled over by CPD, it was our neighborhood in Edgewater who documented Chicago police escorting Bovino through our streets and into Rogers Park. Afterwards, we questioned whether anyone would do anything with our documentation or if we were submitting that evidence into a black hole. The reason why We Keep Us Safe has become a rallying cry across the city is because our institutions at every level have failed us. We have no one protecting us but ourselves. Our children's lungs have been burning since September. They killed one of us and lied about it. We cannot wait 3 more years for accountability. We cannot wait even until March. A federal judge here in Chicago has found that CBP's use of tear gas, pepper balls, and other less than lethal weapons violated our First Amendment rights. Even after she enjoined them from using force in this way, CBP continued to gas us, draw guns on us, and scrape our faces across the concrete just for documenting them. Despite weeks of documenting these abuses, we have no accountability for any of them. We don't even have a consistent mechanism to report their habitual law breaking. We just have a promise to create a record. That is not democracy, that is cowardice. We, the people, have been keeping us safe for months. We are already creating that record. And we bear all of the risks for creating that record. We don't need more analysis. We need a state and city government willing to stand up to fascism the same way that we, the people, have been since September. And to hold these lawless federal agents accountable now for the terror that they are causing in our communities. Thank you.
Chad Curry, followed by Kathy Herwood.
Hello, I'm Chad Curry. I'm a software consultant. And I want to thank the Commission, Executive Director Mahmoud, and Governor Pritzker for providing this opportunity to speak on injustices carried out by ICE. I stand before you today as someone who never thought he would be in a position defending the freedoms of his immigrant neighbors to pursue the American dream as it's written, for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I do this as a part of Edgeville community, and I want to talk about one of those neighbors named Ray Estrada. Ray is a representative of thousands of others who have been unjustly abducted and imprisoned over the last few months. On October 21st, Ray was working at his landscaping job, and at 9:10 in the morning, he was abducted without a warrant. For the past 2 months, he's been held in a for-profit prison in Baldwin, Michigan. Ray is a sole source of income for his family, and his wife is caring for 3 kids on her own. Ray has no criminal record, was abducted off the street, and a rapid responder found his sunglasses, hat, and equipment. He's had 2 hearings canceled, and I just learned that he'd actually been given a bond hearing this morning, and he would be released tomorrow for the minimum bond. But Ray's case isn't unique. Masked individuals driving cars with swapped license plates and sometimes no license plates are driving through Chicago and its surrounding suburbs abducting people. No identification and no way to know that they are actually working for the government. Think about that. If I told you this was happening without context, it would be a frightening thing. Imagine you're a kid hearing this. Imagine you're a kid who is a member of a targeted community hearing it. You don't have to. We saw evidence of that today, and my daughter's good friend, who's a Mexican-American, was riding on the red line the other day, and he's 14 years old, and he saw ICE agents on the platform at Addison and became very frightened and started texting my daughter. That's going to stay with that kid for the rest of his lives, that fear, all for being brown. There are more violent examples of tear gas, pepper balls, and guns being drawn on civilians practicing their constitutional rights. But Ray's abduction has left a hole in his community and his family. This commission is a step in the direction of repairing that hole, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak in your time today.
Thank you. Kathy Herwood, followed by Tovia Siegel.
Okay. Thank you for inviting us to share our stories today. I'd like to share how Operation Midway Blitz affected my neighborhood, Edgewater, on Chicago's north side. When Operation Midway Blitz arrived, our peaceful, safe, diverse neighborhood became a community living in fear. In October, I witnessed 5 CBP agents, automatic rifles in hand, chase down a bicyclist. They surrounded him, screamed in his face, and threatened him. In November, I witnessed ICE block an intersection on Sheridan Road. Armed agents jumped out of their vehicles to abduct Latino construction workers. They didn't ask for IDs or show a warrant. They just grabbed the men. Black Hawk helicopters flew overhead daily, patrolling our neighborhood. The sound of helicopters still elicits anxiety in many of us. Agents circled our schools daily. Students were afraid to attend school, fearing that they or their parents would be abducted. Landscapers and restaurant workers were afraid to go to work or were sent home early because ICE agents were seen surveilling their workplaces. Some restaurants locked their doors. Others decided to close on days when ICE was in the area. We saw groups of landscapers get abducted while on the job, their trucks and equipment left behind in the street. And just when we thought they were gone, the Black Hawk helicopters and armed agents have returned to terrorize our city. Yesterday, I was shocked to see Chicago police assist them in navigating our streets. In Evanston, CBP abducted people at a gas station. I witnessed Evanston Mayor Daniel Biss ask Greg Bonvino if he had warrants for the people he detained, and of course he did not. This is not an attempt to rid our city of the worst. It is a war on people of color and a government-sponsored campaign of racism, intimidation, and violence, and it has to stop.
Tovia Siegel, followed by Amaya Pawar.
Good morning. My name is Tovia Siegel, and I work with the Resurrection Project. From September to November of 2025, we received 1,088 requests for representation for detained loved ones through our unified referral system. That's over 1,000 people detained in 3 months. One of these loved ones is a 22-year-old. He's the legal guardian of his 2 teenage siblings. He's their guardian because they were orphaned after their father was murdered in front of one of the siblings and their mother died of cancer in their home country. I can only imagine the hardship of this 22-year-old caring for his 2 younger siblings through such trauma. They found peace and safety here in Illinois for a short time until October 31st of this year, when the eldest brother, the 22-year-old, was racially profiled and pulled from his car at gunpoint by officers who were looking for somebody else. They were unmarked, in unmarked vehicles, unidentified agents without a warrant. Right now, he's detained in Missouri, where he was just denied bond. His siblings, already orphaned, minors, have been robbed of yet another guardian. This case, while horrifying, represents the terror that federal authorities have unleashed on Illinoisans. People targeted for what they look like, community members kidnapped off the streets, families ripped apart. Federal authorities have targeted journalists and civilian responders, used chemical weapons on residential streets, and shot and killed people. They routinely disappear our neighbors, making it impossible for families and attorneys to locate people for days. We've had cases where family members didn't know where someone was until they called from a home country already deported. As long as communities fear the violence of federal agents, we will not be safe and families cannot heal. We demand justice and real safety for communities and accountability for the actors committing horrific and continuing violence. Thank you.
Amaya Pawar, followed by Jessica Darrow.
Good morning. My name is Amaya Pawar. I'm the president and CEO of the Michael Reese Health Trust, and I'm here standing in solidarity with our grantees who are on the ground, most impacted, and serving the communities most impacted by Operation Midway Blitz. Our foundation is rooted in the legacy of the Michael Reese Hospital, founded by Chicago's Jewish community to serve Jewish immigrants who faced discrimination, but also to serve everybody who faced barriers to health care. It is through that lens that we do our work today. So testifying here today, the contrast and the painful irony between the values that built our hospital and the circumstances that bring us here today could not be more apparent. So I'm here today not only as the CEO of the Trust, but the son of immigrants, the husband of the granddaughter of Holocaust survivors, and my family's history, the legacy of Michael Reese, the work that our grantees do, and the way that Illinoisans are responding in this moment all teach the same lesson. History and current events warn us that when fear is used to govern, it sets us on a dangerous path towards things that are hard to come back from, and that's why documenting what is happening today is so important. At Michael Reese, we know that safety is one of the basic conditions for health. When people do not feel safe, it affects individual physical and mental health, household stability, economic security, and those impacts ripple outward, affecting everyone. It is through that lens that we view Operation Midway Blitz. The operation represents an unprecedented level of militarization in our city. Mass and armed federal agents operating through intimidation and indiscriminate enforcement do not create safety, they create fear. And when that fear erodes the trust that communities depend on in law enforcement to combat crime and public safety, we all suffer. And we're already seeing the consequences today. People are afraid to go to the doctor. Survivors of domestic violence are not showing up to court. Families are withdrawing from daily life. And we know this because other funders, including ourselves, are hearing from our grantees on the ground. Across Illinois, people are choosing restraint, legality, and taking care of one another, even as the federal government disregards longstanding legal and constitutional norms. That's playing out in real time in my community, where when armed agents descend, neighbors answer with whistles, phone trees, and quiet coordination, protecting one another and acting within the law. That contrast matters, and it is a record that must be kept. Thank you. This moment demands upstanders, people willing to step out of the shadows, testify publicly, and put their names on the record. Thank you for creating the space for that.
Thank you. Jessica Darrow, followed by Lauren Roan.
Thank you for hosting this public forum regarding this deadly serious topic. My name is Jessica Darrow, and I'm here today as a concerned resident of Illinois. I have 3 issues I would like to raise. I've been exposed to chemical agents while engaging my First Amendment rights protesting outside the Broadview Processing Center repeatedly. I've been shot with pepper bullets and covered in chemical gas, seen my friends taken to their knees as they choke on these toxic agents, and I've watched their eyes free of tear gas as they struggle to get back up to continue protesting. I don't know the long-term impacts on our bodies, but I do know that many of us return again and again in spite of all these violations because we feel that we have to stand up against the bigger crime. The bigger crime happening here in Illinois is that people are being hunted in the streets because Stephen Miller and this white supremacist administration want them gone. 2 days ago, I witnessed a Chicago resident be kidnapped in the street on Ridgeway in Little Village. ICE handled his body as if it were luggage. He was abused as I watched, and all I could do was document. I know he is one of thousands who have been similarly taken and disappeared, lives altered forever. This is the crime. I know there is more that we can be doing to stop it. However, the third issue I am deeply concerned with is the role that I have witnessed of Illinois State Police and City Police take in supporting federal agents as they enact this kind of violence that I have just described. I've been battered by ISP and threatened with arrest if I step in the wrong place. I've picked up people from city jail after arrests and attended court hearings for others facing charges, state charges, for enacting their First Amendment rights and standing up to federal agents, as our own governor specifically encouraged us to do. I urge this commission to look at these issues holistically, to see them as intertwined, and to hold every elected official accountable for violating public trust and failing to protect us from human rights violations. We need our sanctuary ordinances maintained and the Trust Act enforced by Governor Pritzker. We need state police to stop aiding Bovino by running cover for ICE. We need state charges against protesters dropped, and we need your help to build the case to abolish ICE. Thank you.
Followed by Rija Arshad.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for letting us speak today. I also wanted to take a minute to recognize all the brave and courageous individuals who actually film all this video so that we can have social proof that all of these criminal activities are happening. And I think we really need to, it's very nerve-wracking, but if you're behind the camera, that's all I have to say for that. But I've lived in Chicago for 30 years, and Bridgeport is my home. I'm here to share what I've witnessed in my neighborhood as well as other parts of Chicago as a result of ICE and CBP enforcement tactics. On October 28th, I witnessed 2 abductions in public spaces, one at 35th and Racine, where a landscaper was seized by masked men. He was thrown to the ground and taken by state operatives who did not identify themselves, leaving his truck and equipment behind. And then later that day, unmarked SUVs swarmed a gas station and removed a man into a vehicle with dark tints. People are being taken by anonymous masked men, and there's no explanation in the moment. There's no way for families or bystanders to know who is taking someone or where they are being taken. Each incident descends into chaos with dozens of masked armed operatives filling streets and sidewalks as bystanders cry and panic. On November 8th at Ogden and Cicero Sam's Club, the same day the baby was pepper sprayed, I watched masked operatives tackle a man who was not resisting. When a journalist tried to document it, an operative pointed a weapon at the reporter inches from his face. I also want to address the blackhawking of Chicago. Military helicopters flying low over residential neighborhoods, and by the way, I heard them last night at 9 p.m. above my house. The noise and constant presence terrifying children and families and make our city feel like a war zone. I urge the Commission to consider policy responses, guidance on state authority when masked operatives engage in unlawful conduct, expand family and trauma-informed mental health support, and exclusion zones around schools. Chicago should not have to trade their civil rights for silence. Thank you. Rhea Arshad, followed by Lena Arthur.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Rija Arshad. I'm the organizer lead at the Muslim Civic Coalition. We are a partnership of hundreds of organizations, and our mission is to amplify social and civic efforts across diverse races and faiths towards civic justice. We brief public officials and use community data so policies are driven by equity and evidence. I'm here today because what we have seen during Operation Midway Blitz demands public accountability and urgent corrective action. I'm also here today on behalf of the families, neighbors, and friends who don't feel safe enough to come out and tell their own stories. On behalf of the organizers who have been fighting day in and day out, who aren't able to be here because they are doing that very work on the streets right now. Federal agents operating in Illinois have caused real documented harm, harassing, kidnapping, abusing, and even killing. And just recently, we saw local police aiding and abetting ICE in their kidnappings, which is completely unacceptable. Just a few weeks ago, I was canvassing in Little Palestine, passing out Know Your Rights information to business owners and residents. All residents expressed fear of leaving their homes, neighbors being kidnapped, ICE checkpoints along Harlem, and local businesses losing revenue. This, along with the horror stories that we've heard today, is no way to live. This is not about public safety. The data proves it. Of the 614 people targeted on ICE's list, 598, over 97%, had no criminal record at all. Only 16 people, or 2.6%, had any criminal history. We're witnessing child care workers detained, families separated, and communities pushed into fear and silence. Parents are afraid to drive their kids to school, workers are afraid to go to work. I have seen Uber drivers praying peacefully outside their cars and airport parking lots, being kidnapped by ICE. Our communities cannot work, sleep, learn, pray, or live in peace. The Illinois Accountability Commission was created for moments like this, to build a public record, analyze misconduct, and prevent future harm. I urge the Commission to treat these incidents as urgent, to recommend clear limits on federal agent contact and police collaboration, require transparency and documentation, and ensure Illinois residents are protected from abusive and reckless enforcement. Thank you for convening this hearing.
Thank you. Lena Arthur, followed by Pastor David Black.
Good morning. I have the honor to perform rapid response for Palenque LSNA. In this last year, we've seen our neighbors abducted and sent to countries unknown to them. Our children assaulted with tear gas while walking the streets in Halloween costumes. Citizens dragged out of their homes, zip-tied, and now made homeless. All of this has resulted in mass anger and sadness across our city, made worse when you contemplate that this is our government taking these actions against us with impunity and with the assertion that they are in the right. What has compounded this incredible situation is our state's own participation in supporting the government's abuse of its citizens. If this commission's purpose is to actually create a public record, examine the impact, and consider policy recommendations to prevent future harm, then I propose you add another component. Do the same for the state of Illinois. Commissioner Castillo, you said you want the truth to be told. The truth is, ISP assists ICE, Broadview Police assists ICE, CPD assists ICE. And the same lies you showed up there, the same propaganda against our citizens, our state does against the brave protesters at Broadview regarding ISP's involvement there. They are lies. Governor Pritzker, you are either standing with the oppressed or you are the oppressor. Governor Pritzker, you are complicit. Brendan Kelly is complicit. Brandon Johnson is complicit. Turn this accountability council inward and on what Pritzker is doing to contribute to this evil. Pritzker allows Broadview and other detention facilities to exist. Tell me the difference between Broadview and other concentration camps like CCOT. The recent TRO in Gonzalez versus Nome provides all the parallels that you need. Pritzker hides behind bureaucracy and statesmanship for his own political ambition, reaping the rewards of his pandering to groups desperate for support during these times. If this commission has any integrity, you will investigate your own house and your own hearts.
Thank you. Pastor David Black, followed by Tanya Woods.
Good morning. I didn't know I was going to be called up to speak today, and I'm covered in dog hair. I am moved to share a parable today, and I won't do it as well as Jesus did it. It's a parable about a man who was on his way to work and was set upon by a masked gang, and they beat him into the ground. There were many bystanders. This was in the middle of a city. Some of them took out their phones to film. Some of them stepped back to form accountability councils. Some of them went off to do storytelling and make posts and create viral hits. One of them was a Samaritan. He was an outsider in that place. And the Samaritan stepped in to try to help the person who had been pushed down into the ground and was being abducted and brutalized. Now, in between that Samaritan and the victim were police officers of the city and state who accused that Samaritan of obstructing a federal process, accused him of aggression against themselves, the police, instead of seeing that they themselves were standing between the one person willing to step up and take action and the justice that everyone was claiming to seek. We need to be in solidarity with each other. We need to know that we can trust each other because we need to be coordinated and aligned right now against the tyranny and the fascism that we all deplore. We don't just need another hearing. We don't just need calls for accountability. We need good neighbors. And we need those good neighbors to be protected by the state and the city that claim to have the same opponents that we do. If they cannot step in and be good neighbors in this moment, we need you to have our backs. We need you to drop the state charges against those who are trying to protect their neighbors instead of repressing the few people who are willing right now to step up and put their own lives at risk to stop these masked kidnappers. I pray for the city, for the state, for our capacity to take action and to be good neighbors. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Sharice Walker, CFO for the Westside Justice Center, speaking on behalf of Tanya Woods. Good morning to the distinguished members of the Commission. Tanya Woods is the Executive Director of the Westside Justice Center. We would like to applaud Governor Pritzker for his vision and insight in establishing this commission long well in advance, and thank you to the members of the Commission for giving up their time voluntarily to be part of this historic moment, a moment we all wish we did not have to meet. The Westside Justice Center is a holistic legal aid clinic situated in the heart of the West Side of Chicago, and we have borne witness to the horrific methods of immigration policy enforcement right outside our doors. What is a predominantly Black community, one of the scenes in the video took place right outside of our office windows. That video was taken by the courageous advocates that we work with every day. For this reason, we would like to remind the Commission, please do not forget the people who look like us, both immigrants and U.S.-born citizens. They are often not faces that we associate with immigration policy, but nonetheless, we are also persecuted, tormented, and suffer under the draconian enforcement of immigration policies that our government is hell-bent on enforcing these days. Specifically, these individuals may not have the same support or the same resources that many other immigrants from many other countries may have. So I ask that we do not forget the immigrants of the African diaspora in the West Indies, the Caribbean, South America, East and West Africa. As we are thinking about the priorities of the Commission, the tasks you will take on, the hearings you will hold, as well as the faces of the Commission and the staff itself, the Westside Justice Center and other organizations like that, the United African Organization in Aqaba, and all nonprofits. We serve Black immigrants as well. We need so many more, so I just ask that please do not forget these individuals as we fight for justice.
Thank you. Before I just want to make sure we don't miss anybody who signed up for today. Cecilia Mendoza, are you here?
Hello and thank you, Commissioners. My name is Cecilia Mendoza. I'm the Associate Director of Government Relations with the National Immigrant Justice Center, NIJC. NIJC provides immigration legal services to people and family across the state. And NIJC would like to offer to the Commission for their consideration our After the Blitz report that provides a snapshot of where people were taken and the conditions that they face after being abducted by ICE from our Chicagoland communities. We are seeing rampant due process violations, including barriers to counsel, barriers to release and bond hearings, and coercion to sign voluntary departures. Detained community members are in horrid conditions in detention centers, including medical neglect, overcrowding, unsanitary conditions, and lack of access to nutritious foods. Today, I share one of our clients' stories, Simon's story. Simon was on his way to a soccer game with his family when ICE agents surrounded their car, threatening to break the windows if Simon did not exit the vehicle. When Simon complied, the officers arrested him without a warrant and took him to Broadview. While there, Simon was kept in a room with around 200 other people. There was not enough seating, no beds or pallets, and the room was cold. Everyone shared 2 toilets that were not regularly cleaned, and because of the overcrowding in the cell, some people slept on the ground next to these facilities. After spending a month in detention, separated from his family, Simon was ultimately released thanks to the extensive legal advocacy from our NIJC teams. Our reports highlight the cruel and complex immigration system that many people like Simon often face alone, which is why we must protect and expand access to legal services for our immigrant communities. Access to counsel can determine whether someone is allowed to remain safe in their communities or is deported. Thank you again for the time.
Thank you to everyone who has offered public comments today. Your comments are well received, and we know that sharing your comments publicly is not easy. Again, we recognize the trust that it takes to speak in a space like this, and your words are now part of the public record, and they will inform the Commission's work going forward. Several Very good suggestions were made, and we are going to take those suggestions to heart. We also want to thank those who listened. You listened very respectfully and attentively, and you created space for testimony, and that's a shared responsibility. We appreciate that. This concludes our public comments for today, and to close our hearings for today, I'm going to turn it back to our chair, Judge Ruben Castillo.
Thank you, Judge Holmes. I also want to thank every member of the public who came, every witness. We know it wasn't easy to review some of the things that have happened. I want to thank those who have had the courage to speak and, most importantly, to be out on the street. We will follow the facts, and we understand the frustration many of you feel. I heard on behalf of the commission loud and clear that ISP and CPD cannot be part of the problem. And we will look at that issue in a very serious fashion, just like we will look at ICE. Speaking of ICE, the governor has already invited them to appear before our commission. We would welcome them to appear at any point. I don't think, personally, that that will happen, but I would love to see them come in here and try and justify any part of the behavior that we have seen. One important aspect that we will pursue is the lack of discipline, and we will see other expert witnesses come in before this commission who will indicate that all kinds of standards are being violated every day, and agents are coming back to Chicago now feeling that the lack of discipline since their previous visit has just given them more impunity and more reasons to even joke around while they're behaving in a manner that makes a joke out of our Constitution, our civil liberties, and ultimately our right to live as basic human beings in this great state, in this great city. We ask, most importantly, for your patience. Today's hearing is only a first step. I hope you can appreciate that it took a lot to get to this point. Other hearings will occur. Any witnesses who were unable to come here because of work schedules, we will certainly accommodate that. As Judge Holmes mentioned, we will take written testimony. Beyond written testimony, we will take written suggestions. If you have events or ideas as to what we should be pursuing, nothing, and I repeat, nothing is off of the table. If you look at the executive order that the governor did sign, there is a lot of flexibility for this commission. We can recommend state legislation. We can make recommendations for discipline. We can make recommendations for prosecution. We know that some of those recommendations may fall on deaf ears, but there are some very fine thinkers on this commission. Not talking about just the two former judges, but plenty of good people who will think of ways to get around that, and we don't expect to be waiting years. We don't expect to be even waiting months, but there is a lot of work to be done, especially if this is going to reoccur in real time over the next several months. So I repeat, we ask for your patience. Stay tuned, stay engaged, submit whatever you can. We ask for your help, but ultimately we are your commission, and we are doing this because we willingly and voluntarily accepted this big responsibility. So stay tuned. Thank you for coming out today. God bless you all.